presented by Progressive Insurance. More NFL talk with Damian Woody on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. 13 minutes. Our man Jay will be back here at 8 a.m. Eastern to talk about the NBA draft and the big story that overshadowed the draft, the injury to Klay Thompson. So hang tight for that. But hanging on for a big one tonight for Murray. As Key said, if they can get it done tonight in Seattle, that would be 3 wins against the Seahawks in 3 tries for Arizona. So you got to think he's definitely locked in on the Seahawks and how he can move the ball at will on that defense, which is a sieve for Seattle. However, Kyler also making a little more news yesterday, not about this big game that he's facing, but essentially whether he misses baseball. For those of you not aware, he was the number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft, as you know, but he also was a top 10 pick in the Major League Baseball draft by the Oakland Athletics. Essentially was going to go to Oakland, had essentially signed a deal to go to Oakland, big signing bonus money up front, and then he said, wait a minute, got to get on those buses. I could go to the NFL straight away, be the number 1 pick, but to be that talented in both sports, we have seen it before. Kyler, the latest example. He was on CBS Sports Radio yesterday when they sort of asked him, do you miss baseball with everything going on? And he said, quote, I know where I'm supposed to be at. If I would have chosen baseball, I think I would be missing the hell out of football a lot more. For me, I wish I could do both. And then Brandon Tierney, one of the co-hosts of the program, essentially said, well, you could, because Deion did it and Brian Jordan did it and Bo Jackson did it. And essentially, Murray replied to that statement by saying, I definitely feel like I could. I never say never. As of right now, man, I'm having fun doing what I love. What do you think about that?
I think it's great. I mean, terrific baseball player. I would have loved to have seen him play baseball, and maybe he will do it at some point in time. The great thing about who's going up against tonight is Russell Wilson. They have that in common. Both baseball players, both drafted, both had aspirations and goals to be major league players. This is working for Kyler Murray today in Arizona. There's no question about it. The only thing he needs to do is continue to keep building up on everything that he's done so far and continue to try and win games so he can remain a quarterback in Arizona. I just think that it's a perfect situation. The air raid offense, something that he's been in his entire career, whether it's in college or high school and now into the pros. So there was no learning curves there for him. I just wonder if, for whatever reason, it doesn't go the way the Arizona Cardinals feel that it should go in the future. What happens to Kyler Murray when someone else comes in and wants to run a completely different style of offense? Will they give him a real shot at that traditional spot at quarterback like we see throughout the NFL? Or will they look at him as a castaway and then all of a sudden he decides that he wants to go play baseball full time?
Well, I guess you're talking about scheme versatility, right, is what we're talking about. We saw this before. We saw this with Ryan Tannehill coming in, and they made his head coach in college his offensive coordinator, and it seems like he didn't miss a beat. But as soon as he left and he had to go into a traditional offense, something that he wasn't familiar with, we saw him struggle for a couple of years, and now we see him with the rebirth in Tennessee.
Mike Sherman, the former Texas A&M coach, who went to the Miami Dolphins the same time they drafted Tannehill to be the quarterback, he became the offensive coordinator.
Right, he made that smooth transition. The question is, will the NFL catch up to the air raid system like we saw Chip Kelly, right, when the defensive coordinators take it and break it down for what it really is, and he's starting to do these RPOs. He's doing the traditional read options and things that we haven't saw for a while, but we know that with his size that he's only one big hit maybe from being able to say, you know what, I'd rather go to baseball. Now, the reason why I believe that he made the right choice is because from a business standpoint, coming in as a number 1 overall pick, he gets the bag early. We know that in baseball, AAA, building yourself up. We're talking about Aaron Judge, one of the best baseball players in all of baseball, still waiting to get his payday, because when you go to college, it's about 6 years before you go through arbitration and all this crazy stuff before you can get the bag. So I think that's what led him to the NFL, the fact that he can get the bag early on. Now, will he always have a passion for baseball? I believe so, but at some point, I believe that, like Russell Wilson, that's going to have to die.
You said that the defense is, being a former linebacker, a big neck in the NFL, as you are.
He'd have been night-night by now.
He'd have been night-night.
Listen, probably that's why you look at him like that, because
what do you mean night-night?
Me and you come from 2 different eras, right?
Okay. Well, not really. I played against you, so don't try to make me old.
Key, you got me by almost a decade.
I played against you, so you was playing with me.
That's true.
So what are you talking about?
You were my hero growing up, man. I was gonna bring and throw me the damn ball book and hope you decided. You know what I'm saying? I looked up to you. But anyway, when I say
they swear I played like in the 70s. This dude's is unbelievable.
It's like the physicality, right, of the game has changed. But eventually, defense coordinator is going to say, you know what? I'm going to give up some rushing yards to the running back, and I'm going to make sure that I can be physical with him. Remember when the Baltimore Ravens played Colin Kaepernick in the Super Bowl? And what they said is no matter what, if he's going to stick the ball in his belly, he's a runner, I'm going to take free shots on him. You're going to see guys take free shots on him and say, you know what?
They just haven't got there yet.
Right. But, because he's reading the defensive lineman. They're going to say, instead of crashing down on a dive, just hit him every time. We're going to start getting body blows on him and see if he can hold up. Because we talked about yesterday, he's not the biggest guy.
Let me ask you this, though, Bart. Have they not already, to some degree, called up to their offense? Because first of all, they've lost games, and teams have slowed the offense down. He had a subpar game against the Dallas Cowboys, which, whatever, Dallas is not very good. And they've won 3 games late in the fourth quarter on some magical stuff.
Right.
Games that they probably should have lost.
Yeah, but he's magical in the most pivotal moments, right? You talk about in the red zone, you talk about the first game that they played, man. He hit Bobby Wagner with the R2L2, made him miss and had that. Did he keep the knee up touchdown? And it was an overtime game, but he was still dynamic. I'm talking about when you really shut somebody down. You've seen your defenses, because you're on Tampa, you've seen your defenses just take, a guy like Michael Vick that was in your division and just shut him down. He never want to play him again. I'm talking about that type of shutdown where they understand the concepts, much like we talking about with Lamar Jackson and how people have caught up understanding what personnel groupings mean, what formations mean. They're going to catch up that way, and we're going to see if Kyler Murray can make that adjustment. Right now, it's all new. It takes about a season and a half. Remember, we didn't have a traditional offseason, so people can't take that air raid system and start breaking it down. But now they're going to get intel with Hopkins in the lineup as well and say, oh, this is what they do. Oh, this is what this formation means. Okay, let's keep this dude in the pocket. Let's set the edges, and let's flush him to the left. We're going to fish hook from the left and make him have to flush to his left because we know that he has to square his shoulders up. So if he scrambles to his left, we know the odds are he's going to run. We know if he goes to the right, he still has the opportunity to throw or pass the ball. Those type of philosophies are going to start to kick in. Somebody going to give him some night juice.
Zubin, speaking like a real defender.
Yes, the R2L2. We'll have a much more nuanced discussion in the break when you can explain what that means.
New PlayStation's out, baby. New PlayStation's out. Get me one, Sony.
PS5. All right, he's asking for it on the air. Okay,
Jeez.
Let's go into the game in and of itself. We have an NFL reporter that covers each of the 32 teams. Josh Weinfuss is our man with the Arizona Cardinals, and he essentially is addressing the question I think a lot of people are thinking. It's a short week for the Cardinals. Miracle win with the Hail Mary on Sunday. Can they put all of that behind them to get ready for this game, by far the biggest of the young Murray era?
They can't get away from it. Even quarterback Kyler Murray said he'll never get over that play. So it's always going to be in their head. But I do think that they're able to compartmentalize it enough to play this game against Seattle simply because they understand what's at stake, and that is probably a playoff berth. First place in the NFC West. They could be playing for first place in the entire conference at this point. So I do think that they're able to put it behind them enough to play this game.
To Josh's point, 7-3 if they win tomorrow night. They win tonight and would be in first place by themselves tomorrow morning. And Josh even going there with the possible number 1 overall seed if things end up shaking out their way.
Yeah, it's behind them. They're not thinking about what went on a week ago against the Buffalo Bills. You asked me about it, so I'm going to respond to it. Mm-hmm. But I'm not sitting there in the film room saying, man, can you believe we scored at the end of the game? I'm looking at what we did against Seattle the first time around and what Seattle's been doing of late. I'm not thinking about the Bills. I'm moving on. I got bigger fish to fry, which are the Seattle Seahawks up in Seattle. I mentioned fish, Seattle. Right. I know you, Zubin. Right. But it's one of those deals where they're focused on the task at hand, which is tonight. And so, I think that they got an opportunity to go up there. The one interesting thing for me is when you look at the RT, LT2, or whatever the hell Bart was talking about, Kyler Murray doing a Bobby Wagner, can he do that to Jamal Adams that was not in the lineup at that point in time that they beat them the first time around, who will be in the lineup this time around. We saw the way he played against the Atlanta Falcons. He was flying all over the field, acting like a wild man that was let loose. Let's see if he could do that tonight up in Seattle. Let's see what happens with the weather. Supposed to be a 60+% chance of rain. You know how I feel about dome teams going on the road in hostile environments. Although there is no fans in the stands, you still get a little bit of showers and slippery, things like that. Let's see how Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals respond to those sort of things, Zubin.
No question about it. We will see how they indeed respond. And we should mention that Key said, indeed, a chance of rain tonight in Seattle in November. Certainly nothing too surprising. On the other side, Brady Henderson, he'll be trying to stay away from the rain, stay healthy, stay covered, stay dry. He's all over the Seahawks beat. He's going to tell us the simple question I think everybody needs to know right now. How do you stop Kyler Murray?
Pete Carroll was kicking himself after the Seahawks lost to Arizona in Week 7 for not blitzing Murray more once it became clear they weren't getting any pressure with their front four. They finished that game with no sacks, not even an official quarterback hit on Murray. And their defense has undergone a huge shift since then. They've been the NFL's most blitz-heavy team over the past 3 games. That's really not been Carroll's MO over his career, but he's had to do something to help a pass defense that's been struggling at a historic rate. Now, we'll see if that blitz-heavy approach continues against Arizona. Remember, the Seahawks didn't have Jamal Adams in that first game. He's been their best blitzing weapon, but they also didn't have Carlos Dunlap yet, and he's really given their defensive line some much-needed pass-rushing firepower.
And Bart Dunlap coming over in a trade from the Cincinnati Bengals. What do you think?
I tell you what, I've been fortunate enough to be, I don't think I've ever finished less than 10th in defense in my career. I'm sure the Geek Squad are out there and they're trying to find out, but I'm pretty sure that I've been first in top 5 a lot of times. And when we win against guys like that and Michael Vick, right, and you heat them up. And that's why Pete Carroll, who's a prideful man, who's made his reputation on the defensive side of the ball, is kicking himself because he let him off the hook. He said this kid can't beat us from the pocket, and he beat him. So now you're saying, listen, I'm going down, I'm falling on my shield, and I'm falling forward. So I'm going to heat him up. Remember, they don't have a great pass rush, right, Keith? So if they don't have a great pass rush, what did Jamal Adams excel at last year? Getting to the passer, right? He had 6 sacks. He was on pace to beat Adrian Wilson's 9-sack season as a safety before injuries shortened his season last year. So what I'm saying is I'm going to make sure that I have that overhang player in
Bye.